Bryson DeChambeau is indeed a U.S. Open champion at Wingfoot.
All right, we are back here on the Just End the Suffering podcast. Talking golf in November feels very weird to be saying that. So whenever we talk golf, we do have our golf guy on. He works with the PGA Tour. Dan DeMartini is back. Dan, how are you?
I'm doing well, Mike. Thanks for having me. And it's fun to talk about just where we've been with the world of golf. It seems like everybody is kind of ready for the Masters, and it's an exciting time as we kind of wrap up 2020 and start pushing towards 2021.
Yeah, it definitely feels weird though. I mean, I could have told you last year after we did the last major, okay, we're going to be on in November of 2020 talk about the Masters. How weird would that sound?
Very strange. It's a really, really weird year. And to be perfectly honest, the way the schedule works out, it's kind of fun, although strange. It's fun in that we're going to get a lot of great golf now between this Masters, all the way through the Players' Championship, and then another Masters right away within about a 6-month span. We're going to get, a ton of high-level competition, great tournaments. Obviously, Waste Management Phoenix Open is always a really fun one. So if you're a avid golf fan, you can kind of sit back and say, well, 2020 was a really tough year. But 2021 and the end of 2020 is really going to be an exciting time to watch and kind of see where we are right now in the golf landscape with all these young players and more seasoned players now coming back out and feeling more comfortable playing on a week-to-week basis. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and it starts this week.
It does, and it does feel weird on the calendar, too. They are the last major of the year this year because we have the PGA Championship in August. We have the U.S. Open in September, so what did we really learn from these last two majors that we can carry into the Masters this year?
What we learned is that while they were played in a different time, the core of those tournaments still held through. Really no complaints about the courses, the course conditions being played in different months. The tournament teams for those respective organizations did phenomenal jobs. Really no issues getting off these majors. So while that's a great thing, it's not like there's pressure on Augusta National to put out, another, the way that course is always set up. I mean, it's always so pristine, and they do an incredible job. And also just the weather that they benefit from being in that portion of the country. It should live up to the stature of what you think when you close your eyes and you say, oh, it's Masters week. So that lush green fairway that you see in your mind and those yellow pin flags, you're going to get that again. And there was a little bit of question about it leading up to it, but from everything that I've heard and seen, it's going to be just on par with the other two tournaments. From a competition standpoint, obviously Colin Morikawa winning the PGA Championship and Bryson DeChambeau winning the U.S. Open. What you saw there was really tough competition, and the right guy at the right time, whose game was obviously being tested with the rest of the field kind of dropping off a bit. Those guys matched the course style, and those were the ones that truly stepped up and kind of played their game. And Morikawa, who can do a little bit of everything, and had an amazing summer of week-to-week playing, culminating in his first major championship. That was fantastic to see. And then obviously the story of the summer may have been Bryson DeChambeau. It still is, just his incredible play and his ability to hit the ball just miles and miles further than his competition on a week-to-week basis is it's really incredible. So I'm expecting another really interesting week, more so than ever. I know we were talking about this a little bit offline, but this is a wide open Masters field. Normally, you have a really good idea of like who's going to be that favorite coming into the week. And everybody that I've talked to and everything that I've seen, there really isn't one standout person. I know we can talk about it here in a minute, but I think it's going to be really, really interesting from a course setup. Is it going to play long? Is it going to play a little bit shorter? It sounds like we're going to have decent weather. So I'm really, really curious to see whose game is in shape to win and just how low these golfers will go.
Yeah, before we get into some of the golfers themselves, let's go to the course. Because obviously it's the one course where, like every year is a major year, all the holes, but we're used to it being in April around Easter. We're getting it now in the middle of football season and a cool bit of cooler weather than we're used to then. So what do you think is going to be different about the Masters in November than the Masters in April?
Well, what's funny is that from a condition standpoint, it's still really warm down here. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm not that far away. I'm a half day drive from Augusta National. It's a very. It seems like they have also been kind of in these high 70s to mid 80s conditions. We've gotten a fair amount of rain, but that's usually pretty good for the course. And everything that I've heard about the course conditions, there were some aerial shots that were taken a few weeks ago that were posted online about, that it looked dried out or this or that. Well, a ton of rain has come through. We've obviously got a tropical depression hitting us right now on the western side of Florida and making its way across. That's helping the course conditions as well. So while that's not going to hit or shouldn't affect play, you never know. The path of those storms can change all the time. It sounds like they've got the course in a condition where you won't know whether it's November in the South or whether it's April. So it sounds like, and from everything that I've seen and heard, that you're going to get a pretty true product. And the course itself, while there may be some leaves on the fairway, other than that, it's going to feel very much like April.
Yeah, I think there'll be two differences. Obviously, number one is no fans, which I think we expect here in 2020. The other thing I think is going to be noticeable, especially when we get to the last round, is that it's going to be an earlier finish than we're used to for the Masters because obviously it's an NFL Sunday. CBS wants to have the whole thing wrapped up by like 3 o'clock so they can do a 4 o'clock window of game. So I think that might be interesting seeing the turnaround from the third round Saturday, the fourth round on Sunday.
Those are two really good points, and I will definitely say that it's going to be fun to make sure everybody that's out there listening in prep for the weekend, set your alarms, get up early on Sunday, and make your coffee and set up for brunch because it'll be a fun kind of early morning way to watch the final round. And hopefully we've got a fantastic finish there, and so you're kind of keeping one eye on the football and then one eye on the closing holes on Sunday. So great to point out the timing has changed as well. It will be really interesting to see how the players kind of adapt to that schedule. I don't think it's going to affect them that much because they're used to going out pretty early as well. It's just going to be, from my perspective, I think we deserve a really good Masters for this year with everything that we've been through from the golf landscape, from trying to protect the players as best we can from a COVID-19 standpoint to the protocols of not having fans on site. A lot of guys are in the prime of their careers right now, and to be able to put out a fantastic product here at the end of 2020 is really, I feel like it's well deserved for the people that work in and around the golf product. So it should be a lot of fun, and definitely make sure you're setting your alarm Sunday morning and you got your TV tuned in.
Yeah, indeed. And one of the guys might be in the mix there, the man of the moment in golf, Bryson DeChambeau, the Sports Illustrated cover athlete of November, and obviously wins the U.S. Open. He's sort of become the revelation of golf because of his scientific approach to the game and embracing weightlifting and trying to find ways to just take full advantage of his talents. So what do you think about Bryson DeChambeau here? How do you think he's going to do?
Well, Bryson's a really interesting case, right? I mean, he's had a phenomenal year. There was an article that came out earlier this week. I believe it's on several publications now. If you search Twitter, you just search his last name. I'm sure you can find the article. It talks about how in a practice round, he is hitting the ball so far and on such unique angles to approach these holes, these traditionally, 2-shot, maybe 3 shots into green type holes, and he's hitting, a driver and then, a 7-iron, where most guys could have a hybrid or a wood trying to reach it into. And he's just reinventing some of these traditional golf courses with just how long he can hit the ball off the tee. And it's just such a unique view to see it this week is a real treat for all golf fans. Maybe not golf traditionalists who are used to Augusta really being a big test your ability to adapt to scrambling and hitting from unique angles and having to play conservative, but then go for it at the right time. Seems like Bryson might come out and just go for it. The first hole all the way through 18. So he's going to play his game. It's going to be really interesting to see if it translates into a low score. Bryson could win by 5 strokes, or he could be 10 shots off the lead. It's all, Augusta has that ability, and course setup is really going to be interesting to see because Bryson plays his style of game, which we've all seen throughout the year, on courses that are wide open where he can scramble and make some, recover from a shot that kind of goes a little bit errant. Augusta might not be so forgiving this week. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with his score. Expect to see his name early, or he's going to be fairly down the board.
Yeah, he's one to watch. The other one to watch is another one you feel like you've forgotten because it's been so long ago, is that Tiger Woods actually defending champ here. He had the big memorable win at Augusta in April of 2019. Not even last April, it was that long ago. But we haven't heard much from him this year in the restart. He hasn't been super high on the leaderboard. So what do you think about Tiger's chances here? You think he can win again? You think it's just like kind of too long a layoff here?
So personally, I don't want to be the kind of guy who ever says, that they're picking against Tiger Woods ever. That's not like a reputation that I want to establish, but because it's Tiger Woods. But what I will say is that, obviously he took a considerable amount of time off. And has he been as active? He played at the Zozo Championship, which was just a couple weeks ago, I believe. And before that, he had taken basically the full month in terms of a PGA Tour tournament to play at the U.S. Open. Was the last time he was cut at the U.S. Open. So he's got a tie for 72 at the Zozo Championship, and before that it was a cut. So in his last 2 events, we really don't know if he's basically combined score from those 2 tournaments. He's +9. So I don't know what kind of game we're going to get. Clearly, Tiger knows this course better than any other player in the field at this moment, other than maybe Bernard Langer, who's the ageless wonder who's still playing. And watch, we're going to see Langer's name in the top 20, leading into Saturday and Sunday. It could definitely happen again. The guy is just amazing. But if I'm picking Tiger, I would lean towards more saying that he's going to have a better finish in this coming Masters in the April situation rather than the one that he's going to face this week in November, purely because I think there are more events that will get him into a rhythm leading into the one in the spring rather than this one here in November. The thing with Tiger is when he establishes that rhythm and he can make, 4 or 5 birdies on the front 9 and then, establish times when he wants to be conservative and then aggressive, that's the Tiger that has a chance going into Sunday. I don't know if he's going to be able to come right out the gate without really putting up a ton of birdies and going low early to stay with some of these guys who've been playing really frequently. I mean, I think that Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, all these guys who played great last week in Houston, their game is way more in tune to come out and have a great finish at Augusta this week than Tiger. I just think he's up against a big challenge getting his competitive juices going again to win. But once again, I mean, it's Tiger Woods, and he's done it recently when everybody else is counting him out. So, it's really tough. I would lean towards him having a better finish in April.
Yeah, that makes some sense. Obviously, they're not the only 2 guys there. Who are some other contenders you could see making some noise? I mean, I've been following the Twitter sphere a little bit. It seems like Jon Rahm's getting a lot of play this week.
And it's really interesting that Jon Rahm is back on it. He obviously also had a really good 2020 and competitively. As I said, I think that Dustin Johnson, I think that Brooks Koepka, Justin Thomas is always, a favorite here. I really like Patrick Cantlay, who won recently. And I just think that historically, I believe in the last Masters, I think he finished in the top 10. His game really kind of fits. He doesn't make a ton of mistakes, and he's learning how to come back from one of his mistakes, which is a really big key on the PGA Tour. You have to be able to say, okay, I made a bogey. Let me come back with 2 birdies. And I feel like his game is really, really strong right now. I love Webb Simpson. Once again, a guy who doesn't make a lot of bogeys. He's not going to go out and shoot 8, 9 under, but he's going to chip away. He's going to go 3 under, 2 under, 4 under, and he's going to quietly just keep sneaking up. I love Hideki Matsuyama. I think that he's coming off the hottest round last week at Houston. He's another guy who loves the big stage, and I think that we've seen some success at Augusta, so I think that Hideki's in a good spot. A lot of people out there, people that I work with, colleagues at the PGA Tour, are high on Jason Day. I'm really curious because Jason Day is such a good person and has such a great family, and just everything about Jason Day you have to like. I would love to see him in contention. He's had some success at Augusta in the past, and obviously I would love to see him come back and just be, Jason Day is still playing high-level golf. And that would be a great story. So I'm high on those guys. A couple of other kind of sleepers. I know that we normally do picks and then sleepers. Some guys that I really like. Tyrell Hatton. Only if I'm looking at some of the more European players that are coming over to play. Hatton is a name that everybody should know now. He is playing phenomenally, playing a lot. I tend to go with the guys from a sleeper standpoint that have been playing these tournaments under these COVID conditions, because it's very different. There is no competitive juices that are fed on by hearing the crowds and the cheers and making putts and making great shots. You have to be your own motivator out there. It's just you and your caddy. So he seems to have figured out how to do it and had some success as well. Those are the guys that the self-motivated guys are the ones that I'm looking at there. Justin Rose is kind of a deep cut. He always is a contender at Augusta. And then, a guy that I think every time, Mike, that I've been on with you that I pick, it's Xander Schauffele. I just like that guy's game. He never really gets too high or too low. He just keeps grinding. And even if he's 4 or 5 shots up the lead, he has the kind of game that can just, switch on and go 4 or 5 under in a row, and boom, he's at the top of the leaderboard. He comes out of nowhere. So he's definitely a guy that I would seriously consider going with. But once again, look, I've already just named, 7, 8 guys' names, and you could talk about Patrick Reed. You could talk about Ricky Fowler has been really, really focused. Everything that I've heard that he's been gunning for the past few weeks is being able to come out and have a great showing here at Augusta, because that's something that he hasn't been able to put together. So in a couple of years. So I'm really curious. There's so many big names that are all big competitors this week, and they all want it. They're all looking at this saying, this is a bonus almost. We didn't think we were going to get it, so why not just come out and let it rip? So we have no idea what's going to happen. But everybody seems to have a different favorite, whether it's Koepka, whether it's Rahm, I don't know. But, my personal opinion, if I had to pick somebody, Mike, I think I would have to pick Dustin Johnson, just because of how he looked last week. And when he is putting well, it's really hard to catch him. We've seen it a few times in the past 2 years now. And when he's making long putts and mid-range putts, not too many can stay with him. So that's who I'm going with.
All right, interesting call there. 2 things I wanted to touch on real quick before we move on here. Number one, obviously I might have missed this, but do you buy the Rahm hype?
I love Jon Rahm's game. I really do. I just think that there are other guys that are going to look at this opportunity and they're going to come out and be super, super aggressive towards getting the win. I think that Rahm, has now proven that he can win. He had a great 2020. I'm leaning towards some of the guys that have been playing a little bit more often, more frequently. And, watching Rahm through the FedEx Cup playoffs, he was so hot and played so great down the stretch. I think it's kind of tough when you have such a great finish to the FedEx Cup season in the past year, and then, you take a little bit of time to figure out, rest, recover, get your game back together, and do that reset. I just think that he's another guy that I would put in with the Tiger category, where I could see him having a better April than a November. I'm just riding the hot hands at the moment, and that seems to be on the Koepka is healthy again. DeChambeau is out gunning, and the Dustin Johnsons of the world. So that's why I'm just leaning more towards them. If you're asking me for a yes or no, I'm not believing the Rahm hype, but I could be eating my words in a week.
Yeah, the other one who I'm intrigued on, one who I'm inclined to lean towards here, I think, because he's a little under the radar considering his reputation. What about Rory McIlroy?
Yeah, Rory's really, really interesting. I've seen on various odd sites that Rory is still somebody not to count out. I just don't know if his game is right for Augusta, and it's really hard. Every year that I watch, I'm a Rory fan. I really am. He's a really nice guy. Every time I've interacted with him, he's great with the fans. He's great with, working with corporate sponsors and everything that he does. He is a class act, and I want him to win. I just think that, once again, stylistically, I think that there are other guys that are going to attack this course in a way that, that right now their games are better suited for it. And Rory, I would have loved to see Rory play, a little bit more often through the end of the year, and obviously into this, wraparound PGA Tour season, just to get a few more rounds under his belt and kind of be it towards the top of the leaderboard. Rory's a guy that, once again, I think that he's just like Dustin Johnson, that if they're on and their putting is working, they are untouchable. But we just don't know, because we haven't seen enough from Rory lately.
All right, that sounds good. A lot of deep dives into the Masters. Daniel, let's stick around and do some NFL picks this week.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, we'll do some NFL picks right after this.